How's it going, everybody? This is David Shine Thompson with Real News. Trying to get this music to turn down, if I can do it. We'll see. There we go. Get it paused at least. But I just wanted to let everybody know that Real News will be live at 12 p.m. Eastern today. So coming up in about 50 minutes, Real News will be live. I apologize for us not being able to be live earlier today at our normal time, but you will be able to check that out. We will be live at 12 p.m. Eastern today. We really appreciate your patience, and we had some work stuff to do today, but I think we got a plan to, I don't think our work is going to schedule anything during the normal Real News time, so we may be able to start going Monday through Friday starting next week. We'll make an announcement on the show at noon today. Also, premiering a new intro today, so you want to check that out. Real News, it will be live. We apologize, but it'll be live at 12 p.m. Eastern today. And we have lots of great announcements. We're going to have some great guests next week. We're going to be doing some partnerships with Americans for Prosperity and doing some simulcast streams on Americans Prosperity's page and this page. We think we'll have to work out the technical issues, but we're going to be talking to Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs next week about opening up the economy. We're going to be talking to a Nashville City Council member, I think, on the property tax increase that they're looking to do over in Nashville, or at least about that. I don't know if this particular council person is for it or against it. It's more Grant's thing. We'll find out more. You'll want to hear all the information starting at 12 p.m. Real News will be live at 12 p.m. today. So thank you so much for your patience. And I'm going to leave this video up for a little bit and come in and make this announcement again. But enjoy the music, enjoy the pretty background, and this has been Real News. Enjoy yourself. Changed my mind. I'm going to play you, since we're going to be talking a little bit about the reopening guidelines at 12 p.m. today. I'm going to play, and I don't think my buddy Tim Pool will mind, I'm going to play Tim Pool, his new video on Dr. Phil talking about, let's see, I'm doing several things at once. Talking about, there we go. Man, still don't have it yet. But talking about the Dr. Phil's opinion on reopening the economy and the guidelines that the Trump administration set out yesterday. If you guys can just give me 1 second, I will have all this ready to go for you. By the way, Real News, if you're just joining us, will be live at 12 p.m. I'm playing some filler video till then. I hope you enjoy this. This is Tim Pool or Timcast on YouTube. And it's probably as good a time as any to kind of pump our other sites. You can find us on YouTube at Real News Radio. You can find us on Twitter at Real News Radio. And obviously, if you're watching on Facebook, you already know the deal. But if you're watching on another platform, go to Facebook and type in Real News Radio. And you should be able to find us. And look for the little paper boy holding the, where's my hand? There we go. Holding a piece of paper, newspaper. And that's how you know. I think the logo is the same on everything but Twitter, and we'll get that changed soon. But for your viewing pleasure, here is Tim Pool talking about some of the stuff that we'll be talking about during the show at 12 p.m.
Derangement syndrome is a real thing. Now, I know it's supposed to be a silly phrase, kind of an insult, but it's real. It's when seemingly normal, rational people lose all rational thought and become paranoid at the sight or thought of Donald Trump. It's existed for other people, but right now it's causing serious harm to our country. Dare I say it could be extremely destructive, and I don't know how you cure it. But one of the best examples is this story. Just the other day, Dr. Phil appeared on the Laura Ingraham show saying we have to consider what the shutdown is going to do to us in the long run. If we have the economy shut down for a long enough period of time, it will eventually become so destructive, it will be worse than what the coronavirus could or would have done. And he's 100% correct. And he approaches a bit of it from a psychologist's perspective. Now, immediately people started coming out saying Dr. Phil's not a real doctor. Dr. Phil has a PhD. He's a clinical psychologist. So yes, doctor. No, I mean, if you want to say he's not a medical doctor, that's fine. But they're acting like simply because he has a PhD, he's pretending he's a medical doctor. But the craziest thing so far is that Mediaite actually argues that Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz are making pro-Trump arguments for arguing that the economy needs to be reopened. They're right. Miles-long lines at food banks. Some that we've already heard stories of suicides. This is not good, okay? We have to consider the very difficult reality, the very difficult possibility that no matter what we do, things will get bad. But Dr. Phil is correct. And I'm not a big fan of the guy. I don't know much about him or care. But you look at these stories, this one from the Washington Post, and you can see how Trump derangement syndrome guides the media's reporting. And it's driving a subset of this country into a paranoid, delusional state. I'm not exaggerating. The story from the Washington Post does everything in its power to deride and frame this as though Dr. Phil is a moron and that Dr. Fauci is the foremost expert on all things lockdown. He's not. Dr. Fauci is a medical doctor. I trust the guy. I think he's smart. I like what he has to say. I think we should listen to him. But you got to understand, Dr. Fauci is not an economist, a politician, a tradesman. He doesn't know exactly what's going to be the long-term effects of a lockdown. What he can tell you is what will happen if we release the lockdown. That's great. Thanks for your advice, Dr. Fauci. Now I'll turn to the economic experts. Dr. Phil, also not an economic expert, but he's making a generalist point, and he also brings up the psychological harm that people will be faced by this. So if you want to talk about where he is an expert, if he says people are suffering, they're lonely, it's going to cause mental anguish and damage that can be very severe for a long time, okay, we will consider the expertise of Dr. Phil. The Washington Post says, after Fauci urged caution in reopening the economy, Fox News turned to Dr. Phil for a second opinion. Turned to Dr. Phil? Fox News shows Dr. Fauci all the time. They bring on tons of opinions. What is this? The morning mix from the Washington Post. They don't tell us whether or not it's an opinion piece, which it is. They say after Anthony S. Fauci, the nation's leading infectious disease expert, explained the White House's new guidelines for states to slowly reopen their economies in a 3-phase process, Fox News host Laura Ingraham sought another opinion later in the show, an opinion that agreed with Dr. Fauci. This is so ridiculous. So for those that aren't aware, Donald Trump and his administration has released a 3-phase reopening plan. The administration envisions meeting the criteria each time a locality progresses through 3 phases. This includes the advice of Dr. Fauci.
Hey, everybody, I'm just shamelessly stopping this video for anybody who had maybe just popped into the live video. Real News will be live at 12 p.m. Eastern today. I'm just doing this as kind of an advertisement to let everybody know because we weren't able to be on at our normal time. But you're going to want to check out the show. We have lots of big announcements for next week. We have guests. We have a brand new video intro that will be premiering on today's show. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And with that, I'll give you back to Mr. Tim Pool of Timcast.
And for some reason, the media, well, I shouldn't say for some reason. I get it. It's Trump derangement syndrome. If Trump says it, it's wrong. Even if Dr. Fauci agrees with the president, which is why I think they've tried really, really hard to make this rift between Fauci and Trump, which there isn't. And Dr. Fauci actually said at one point, I wish the media would stop doing this. Well, the problem is the public likes Dr. Fauci. So when he comes out and says something, and it might diverge a bit from the president, the media goes, now's our chance. Because as long as Dr. Fauci is saying it, we can't criticize the president. So we have to create a rift and make it seem like they completely disagree on everything. Fauci said they're on the same page. Fauci is approaching it from a medical standpoint, Trump from a political and economic standpoint. Here's what the Washington Post writes. They say, she turned to Phil McGraw, better known as Dr. Phil, television psychologist to the masses. He acknowledged the novel coronavirus is killing Americans, more than 33,000 as of early Friday, but also wondered why the economy would shut down over the pandemic, but continues to function as people die from lung cancer, car crashes, and pool drownings. They then add in parentheses, unlike coronavirus, none of the causes of the death listed by Dr. Phil are contagious. It's a fine argument. Okay, are you here to make an argument, Washington Post, or to tell us what's going on? This is a big problem with media right now. I have no problem with opinion pieces or columns or analysis. But when you present these articles and nowhere does it say opinion analysis, people think it's just the news. And many people can't tell the difference. Quote, we don't shut the country down for that, said Dr. Phil after he cited inaccurate statistics on accidental deaths. Yet we are doing it for this, and the fallout is going to last for years because people's lives are being destroyed. So you want to say his stats are wrong? I think Dr. Phil was kind of just making generalized points, but apparently his numbers were wrong. Fine. Okay. Calm down. How about his second statement is correct? People's lives are being destroyed. They say the conflicting views, one from the most qualified source available on the topic, and the other from a talk show host with questionable credentials. Excuse me? He's a clinical psychologist. What do you mean he's got PhD? Okay, Dr. Fauci's a medical doctor, and Dr. Phil is giving his thoughts. Why is he being singled out by this? It's very strange. You know why? Because the guy was created essentially by Oprah, and all of a sudden now he's making a point that lines up too much with Donald Trump. As if this is the danger of Trump derangement syndrome. Donald Trump could come out and say, we have a potential treatment. It's called hydroxychloroquine. Other countries are using it. And what will the media do? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't take the medicine. It's bad. It's dangerous. Side effects. There are even some celebrities that took it and it helped the symptoms subside and they survived. And now they're saying, oh, but the side effects are so bad. What do you mean? You lived. It helped, right? Anecdotal evidence so far suggests these medications are helpful, and many countries have been using them. There have been some side effects, of course. Why would the media try to reject a potential treatment when other countries are already using it? You know why? Trump derangement syndrome. It's going to get us killed. Here's what they say. Oh, yes, questionable credentials, right. Highlighted again how expert advice on the novel coronavirus has frequently been undermined by celebrity doctors with little to no infectious disease experience. What the Washington Post is doing here is a framing device. It's a way to make you reject what Donald Trump is saying because they've framed it in such a way that the only possible outcome is a medical one. I know most of you have probably heard me say it, but I'm gonna make sure it's very clear to everybody. Maybe you've not seen, not everybody who watches, my content watches every single video. If there is no economy, if people can't eat, they will die. They will riot. Society will break down. If people get sick with the coronavirus, they will die. And if it gets really bad, then social order breaks down as well. They're both happening. Having a conversation about the importance of non-medical circumstances is extremely important. It would be like your house burning down, but, your basement's flooding. So there's some people saying, like, I can't believe they're talking about putting a fire out right now when the basement's flooding. It's like, wait. They're both happening. We have two problems right now. Although it'd be kind of funny if a house was burning and flooding at the same time. You get the point I'm trying to make. There can be more than one problem. Or better yet, I'll give you a better analogy. It would be like your house is on fire. And so you're talking to the people saying the structural integrity of the building might go down. And it doesn't make sense that we're ignoring this. You can't just send people in, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's a fire. And then, these experts on architecture are complaining about a building that's on fire. Bring in the fire experts. Dude, there could be multiple problems caused by one thing. The fire results in structural integrity loss. Let's read a little bit more. Fauci. What do they say? Fauci, director of the...
Before he reads a little more, I'll come on and do another little advertisement. Real News was supposed to be live this morning. We had something else we had to do, and we apologize. Theoretically, we did some things today to make sure that shouldn't happen anymore. But Real News will be live in just a little over a half hour at 12 p.m. Mr. Henry is getting all the news stories together and getting his brain cap put on and stretching and all those things that Mr. Henry does, combing his hair real good, but he's getting ready for the show. The show will be live at 12 p.m. Eastern. We apologize for not being on this morning. You're going to want to check it out. We have lots of info on some great guests we're going to be having next week, including Glenn Jacobs, Knox County Mayor, talking about unlocking the economy. We'll also be having a lot of great guests next week. So we'll also be premiering a new video intro that you're going to want to check out. It's all very exciting and all coming up at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Real News will be live, so set your watches, make an appointment in your Outlook calendar or whatever you do. But check that out. And just for a little bit, I'm playing here Tim Pool from Timcast. You can find him on YouTube or Minds.com. He's great. He's one of my favorite online commentators, talking about reopening the economy and I think like Dr. Phil's thoughts on it. It's interesting. I love the guy. I think he does a great job. It's not the most pertinent information, but it should be entertaining. So back to Tim with Timcast.
The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease and a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force urged a cautious approach on Ingram's show Thursday night. His advice was quickly undercut by Dr. Phil in a following segment, when he argued states should reopen their economies even if lives might be lost to the virus, to prevent anxiety and depression. Yes, if 50 million people are suffering from anxiety and depression, your social order breaks down. So there is a certain point where we have to question the full damage wrought by economic collapse versus the virus. Hey man, I'll be the first to admit that's a terrifying predicament. What I also find really funny is how they've kind of let the mask slip over at the Washington Post. What's that you say? That you actually had Dr. Fauci on to give his opinion, and then you had another guy on to talk about the merits of the economy and depression, and somehow that's a bad thing? Amazing. The media no longer believes in entertaining various ideas. Oh, they'll argue, but Dr. Phil is not qualified. He's a clinical psychologist. He's giving you his perspective based on how people will react to this. I think that is actually one of the most he's one of the best people you could have for this. Now, maybe there's a better clinical psychologist who could speak to this, but talking about the mental effect on human beings of this mass lockdown, I think is really important, especially how the coronavirus is affecting people's mentality. People are dying from the coronavirus, he said. I get that. Then he launched into his theories about what might happen if people don't return to work and school soon. In doing so, he cited incorrect statistics and repeated talking points Fauci and other experts have disputed. Sure, fine. Fauci also gave incorrect information in the past. We're dealing with people of varying degrees of expertise in various areas, and I have no problem with it. Dr. Fauci's expertise, he's a medical doctor, infectious disease expert. He can't tell us anything about the economy. But sure enough, here's what we get. Mediaite writes, Morning Joe. Oh, so it's not just Mediaite, it's MSNBC too. Chides Fox News for booking medical experts Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil. Medical experts. Maybe that's not the right way to phrase it, Mediaite. Here's what they say. The set of Morning Joe took aim at Fox News' medical experts and strongly suggested that booking Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil were irresponsibly offering quackery over sound advice. In the past 24 hours, the two television doctors made curious comments about the incidence of coronavirus in the context of balancing the public health risk presented by the spread of COVID-19 and the urgent desire to reopen a suddenly cratered economy. Dr. Oz cited an article that stated that reopening schools would only lead to an increase in 2 to 3% mortality, which was widely interpreted in a manner that Dr. Oz later explained was not intended in a follow-up apology video. And Dr. Phil made the nakedly specious more people die from automobile accidents claim. Co-host Joe Scarborough mocked the ostensibly pro-Trump medical experts. What? I didn't know Dr. Phil was the biggest Trump supporter, but sure, send the MAGA hat. Dr. Phil, please put it on. Apparently, if you think the economy needs to be reopened because there's going to be psychological damage and economic damage and potential loss of life for this, you must be a Trump supporter. This is the problem with politics right now, man. Can we have an honest conversation about what should or should not be in our government? The answer is no. Because if Donald Trump says something like, here's medicine, and you say, that's interesting, Trump, I would like to learn more about this medicine, they will scream, you're pro-Trump. Why? If I see an article that says, the sky is blue, and then Trump reads the same article, and then are they going to come to me and say, oh, you agree with Donald Trump? That's what they're doing. I kid you not. If you go over to like my Wikipedia page, for instance, there's a section where it's like Tim Pool's views often align with conservatives on like social media censorship and immigration or whatever. And I'm like, actually, when it comes to immigration, I've cited Bernie Sanders, like Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton. You get the point. They're framing everything not as a policy debate, but as a tribal debate. Policy is gone. It doesn't matter anymore. If Trump says, people need to eat, they'll say, do people really need to eat? Because it's not about what's true. It's about what's tribal. But let me show you the terrifying reality. Business Insider reports 17 hours ago, and I've shown many of these stories. Hungry Americans are waiting in miles-long lines as food banks struggle to keep up with demand. Here's a look at how the rising unemployment and dwindling volunteer pools are impacting U.S. food pantries. They mention unemployment skyrocketing. More than 16.8 million Americans have filed for unemployment in the past 3 weeks, and now it's up to 22 million. Get with the Times Business Insider. This is a story from a couple weeks ago. In New York, which is the highest number of confirmed COVID cases in the U.S., food pantries have declared a national emergency. Wow. As they buckle under the weight of demand and a lack of volunteers. According to NYC Mission Society, an organization dedicated to fighting multi-generational poverty, food pantries are experiencing a 60% increase in demand for volunteers as several fall ill or opt to stay at home for fear of contracting the virus. A man leads a food bank in Prayer. Here we can see with volunteer pools decreasing dramatically, food pantries have been left with skeleton crews. Remaining volunteers in New York unload boxes of food in Manhattan last week. We have seen miles-long lines in various states. Chaos erupted at one Mississippi food bank when people couldn't get access to food because they demanded that you pre-register. Now, we're not at the point necessarily where the people line up for food banks and then riot. But I'll tell you what, man, the store the other day, over where I live, barren, surprisingly barren. So we weren't able to get what we wanted to get. We were ultimately able to find some things, but it was harder than it's been in a long time. I don't know if this is because, some people have said Trump bucks, Tim. The Trump bucks hit everyone's bank account. They went out and they bought up all the food. Boom, it's all gone. Perhaps. But what is also true is the supply chain has been completely disrupted and upended. So these stores are running out of supplies. They're not being replenished. You see, when the first wave of panic buying hit and the stores got cleared out, people said, oh no, there's no more TP, there's no more food. But what they didn't understand is that the trucks are en route bringing the new supplies. They'd already been made. They are being shipped to the stores. So the stores had a restock en route. After those supplies got depleted, the supply chain was disrupted. And now a month or two later, guess what? The shelves are starting to become empty. I really do hope you guys have prepared. I've done some promos for stuff and a lot of people have bought it and a lot of people have laughed. But now we're at a point where I'm telling you what, man, you can make fun of Dr. Phil. You can make fun of Dr. Oz. You can make fun of Trump all day and night. And then how will you ignore this? In an effort to prevent person-to-person contact and increase efficiency, many locales have transitioned to drive-through food banks like Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank in Duquesne, Pennsylvania. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. In Irving, Texas, cars lined up a mile down the road to collect groceries. In Pittsburgh, mobs of cars lined up for boxes of food. In Los Angeles, cars spanned several miles. They're ignoring this. Why can't we have a sane, rational discussion about what's going on? Trump derangement syndrome, man. I understand that if you watch my content, I'm often pointing the finger at the media and criticizing them, often the Democrats. But I'm not doing it because I'm part of a tribe. I'm not doing it because I like the president or like any conservatives. I'm doing it because this is happening. I can give credit and respect to all the people working in the food banks. And I can recognize this exists. But the people in media right now don't care about what's actually going on. They want to write you up a story where they're like Dr. Phil with questionable credentials. I don't care. He made a point. Argue the point. They're not. They're arguing the person. Ostensibly pro-Trump arguments. What does Trump have to do with these food banks? Nothing. Donald Trump isn't running these food banks. Donald Trump isn't providing food or taking food away. These are the localities that have already been set up. Why are people now rushing to these food banks to get food because the economy was shut down. 22 million people just filed unemployment claims. It's probably substantially worse. Guess what? The Democrats had the opportunity to increase the funding for the Paycheck Protection Program. And they said no because they wanted some ideological gains. Nancy Pelosi couldn't even explain why she obstructed it in a phone call. It's almost like they want Trump to win. Now, I assure you, next week, we are going to see another massive increase in unemployment numbers. Maybe they're thinking by doing this, Donald Trump will lose because unemployment is so bad. But I don't think people are going to blame the president because of the pandemic. And it's not like they can't tell that the Democrats are doing this. But hey, maybe it's a last-ditch effort. Maybe it's complete desperation. Maybe the reason the media is doing this is because they want Trump to lose. I don't know. I can speculate. I think it mostly has to do with the Trump bump. The orange man must be bad no matter what. See, they've all wrapped themselves up into this fake reality. And I feel like secretly they all know Trump isn't really that bad, but they're scared to say it because they think everyone else will attack them if they admit it. In private, I'd be willing to bet you'll find these people saying like, oh yeah, I know he's not that bad. But in public, they're scared. No, he must be the worst. Yeah. You end up with these stories being ignored. Dr. Phil made a point. Now we can talk about psychology, trauma, depression, loneliness. There have been suicides, and it's really heartbreaking. I don't want to pull them up because I think these people deserve their privacy, their families and everything. But what do we do about this? What are we supposed to do if we can't get an honest conversation about the problems affecting the American people? While the media is reporting, obviously I'm looking at a news article from Business Insider reporting on these food lines. What we're not seeing is the honest conversation about what Dr. Phil said. Maybe they should write a story saying, Dr. Phil says the economy should be reopened. While some of his stats were incorrect, there's an interesting point to be made that there are major food banks and people are going hungry. Perhaps an honest person would say, how do we minimize loss of life and protect our system? Because I'll tell you what, if the economy tanks, there won't be any nurses or doctors. There won't be a medical system. You have to realize these nurses and doctors need food too. And what happens when they get their paychecks cut? What happens when the hospitals say, we can't pay you? Will the government have to just step in and provide emergency food, government cheese to these doctors? No, I'd be willing to bet you're going to see doctors and nurses say, I quit because I have to take care of my friends and my family first. Because at a certain point, there's no resources for us. That is the problem with people. These people don't understand. The medical system is part of the economy. You can't just, it's not in a vacuum. It's not a magic bubble of a floating hospital in the sky. They need food. They need supplies. If people can't make food, the hospitals don't get food either. What do you think comes next? More loss of life. The cure cannot be worse than the disease. Social distancing makes sense to a certain point. I'm not the expert, but I do believe an honest conversation makes sense. In the end, if you say half of what I said about an honest conversation, they'll just call you, like Dr. Phil, ostensibly pro-Trump. You know what? That is absolutely psychotic. It's not even a policy. It is not a policy position or a pro or anti anyone position to say people need food. I'll leave it there. I'll see you all in the next segment coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out.
All right, everybody, that was Tim from Timcast. I think he did a great job just letting everybody know. The reason I did this whole little 30-minute stream is letting everybody know in just a few minutes at 12 p.m., Real News will be live. Broadcasting live here on the Real News Facebook page, on YouTube. Just search Real News Radio, well, I'm not going to promote the Twitch, but you can also follow us on Twitter at Real News Radio. So, coming up at noon, we're going to be talking about these opening up the economy guidelines. Next week, we're going to be facilitating a conversation along with, I think, partnering with AFP and simulcasting on the two Facebook pages, talking to Glenn Jacobs. Got him confirmed yesterday for this Friday. We'll be talking to him. So you'll want to hear all about that coming up at 12 p.m. today, and we're premiering a new video intro. Should be very exciting. So stay tuned to the Real News Facebook page. Mark it down. Coming up in just a little over 20 minutes, we'll be starting the Real News Show. Thank you so much for watching. This has been David Shine Thompson with Real News.